Oklahoma Gardening is a production of the Oklahoma Cooperative Extension Service as part of the land grant mission of the Division of Agricultural Sciences and Natural Resources at Oklahoma State University, dedicated to improving the quality of life of the citizens of Oklahoma through research-based information. Underwriting assistance for our program is provided by the Oklahoma Department of Agriculture, Food, and Forestry, helping to keep Oklahoma green and growing. Welcome to Oklahoma Gardening. Temperatures are cooling off, but we've got a hot show headed your way. I'll introduce you to the pineapple lily. Chad Webb shows me how to make a Kokedama. You'll learn why we're talking about irises in the fall. And finally, remember that Scoville pepper garden we planted? You won't want to miss as we see if the Carolina Reaper lives up to its name. Like an ombre of sunset colors. Not the flowers, right? Who says you can't add a little tropical flair to your own backyard here in Oklahoma? With this plant, eucalyptus, you can do just that. Also known as pineapple lily, eucalyptus adds a bold texture to any landscape. You can plant it individually or you can plant it in mass with several of them. Regardless, the texture to some of the surrounding plants is going to really add a nice landscape design to your backyard. Now, just the foliage alone is impressive as it comes in both a burgundy color and also a green color. However, you're also going to get flowers that can start blooming in midsummer. And you can see they're just now starting to bloom. And why it has its name, pineapple lily, is because it produces these pineapple-like flowers with these bracts or modified leaves on the top of that, kind of resembling a pineapple. Now, this is fairly small still. It's going to continue to grow and elongate, and you can see all of these flowers will soon open. And it's going to flower for us for about 8 weeks, which really extends our summer garden, as a lot of times our other garden is really starting to feel that heat. This tropical plant is going to start taking off. Now you'll also see the spike of the plant here is burgundy. However, a lot of times you'll see kind of a speckled look to that stem as well. Depending on which hybrid you get of eucalyptus, the flowers are going to range in color anywhere from white to a pink color. So again, that adds to the variety that you can add into your garden. Now, this is a plant that is native to South Africa, and so being tropical, it's going to like moist conditions. However, it does want well-drained soils that have a lot of high organic matter in them. So it might not be suitable for all of Oklahoma, but it is hardy to zones 7A. So you can leave it out. It'll come back for much of Oklahoma. However, if you're north of that zone, then you might want to think about digging those bulbs up and storing them in a dry, cool location and then planting them back out the next season. If it is a perennial, it's going to get about a 2 foot by 2 foot clump for you, and you might want to think about dividing that early in the season if that mass gets too large or you want to share it or spread it in your garden. Otherwise, this plant is a great way, not only because of the foliage, but also the flower, to add that tropical look into your backyard. Today we've got a fun project that we are going to show you, and it's called Kokedama. And joining me today is Chad Webb, who is the Noble County Extension Educator. And Chad, so you've been kind of working on these this summer. Tell me a little bit, what is Kokedama, first of all?
Well, Kokedama is actually a Japanese term, and it's a moss ball.
Okay.
Okay. Koka means moss. Dama means ball.
Okay. So how do we, what are we creating? Basically a living container, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am. We're basically are going to make a potless container using our earth-friendly organic materials.
Okay, so let's go ahead and dig into this. We need some moss, first of all, is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
So you've got a couple here.
Yes, we have the sphagnum moss that is here, and the sheet moss is here. Today we're going to use the sheet moss, and we're going to put it in the water and let it soak for a few minutes.
Okay.
Because we want to make it pliable for later on when we're making the actual moss ball.
Okay. And you can get a lot of these mosses at craft stores or online, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
So is there a difference between pro or con for using sphagnum versus sheet or vice versa?
Well, for me personally, I like the green versus the brown. It's just a prettier color to me. Also, when you go to wrap the ball itself, the sheet moss it's easier to wrap,
Okay.
make it pliable than the sphagnum moss is kind of in pieces, as you can see here.
Gotcha. Okay. So is that enough to make a ball then?
That
there?
should be enough to make a ball.
All right. So what's the next step then?
All right. Next up, we're going to make our ball, which right now we have pre-moistened soil. This is just potting soil mix.
Okay.
And we moistened it, and as you can see, I made a ball, and there's still just a little bit of water coming out, which is perfect. Okay. Now you want to make your ball the size of your plant root. Okay. Because what we're going to do, we're going to split this and put a plant root in there. So you have to kind of marry the two together. Okay. So our ball is already made, and this is how I test it. You ready? All right, looky there. It stayed together.
Should I get two more so you can juggle?
No juggling, no juggling, no juggling.
So that's the test to make sure that it's moist enough, it's holding together. And so at that point we're ready, and we've got a couple of different plants here. You tend to suggest succulents or house plants?
Well, for the Oklahoma environment, I would suggest doing an indoor plant because outside the heat, the drought, the wind, I believe it's very hard to keep them alive and enough moisture, because this is your container. The moisture will evaporate very, very quickly, so you have to water them very often. Okay.
So which of these would we like to use today for?
I would like to use these.
Okay.
Because the root system to this ball are very close. Okay. Okay.
So we're gonna pull.
Yeah. What we're gonna do, we pull one out. We're gonna knock off all the soil media that's on here. Okay. We've now finished the root washing portion. So now we're gonna take our soil ball and our plant. If you'll move that down.
All right.
What we're going to do is we're going to take the ball, split it in half, lay the plant inside.
And you try to keep the stem, at the top, right? Is that?
Yes, yes, yes.
Like you're planting it in a hole.
Just right. This is your hole, and you just kind of manipulate it till you get a ball.
Okay. And so we're going to now wrap it with moss.
We're going to wrap it in moss.
And it's holding well, pretty. So we've got sheet moss we're going to use. So do you have to cut those pieces, or do you use one?
Well, they come in pieces, so you just kind of mold it to fit the ball. Okay. So you may take 2 pieces, it may take 3, you may have to cut some off. It's an art. Okay. Okay. Right. So we're going to start out with our big piece. What we're going to do is, on the sheet moss, sometimes they'll have sticks in here. This one does not, but we want to take all the sticks out, anything that's hard and abrasive. Oh, okay. We're going to lay this out, set the ball on there, and see how this is just wrapping it up, wrapping it. And we're going to cut this long piece off here. Okay.
Watch your fingers.
All right. This is the beginning of it. Now we're going to do the twine to wrap it. Okay. Now if you want to hang it, you want to start at the top and leave plenty of room for your hanging portion. Okay. If you want to set it in a bowl or a container like this one, you start at the bottom. So we're going to hang this one.
Okay.
So we'll start at the top.
Any particular type of twine we're using, or just?
This is just a twine that you can get at any local hardware store, fabric store, hobby store.
Okay.
So I'm just going to leave this up here, and I'm going to start wrapping it. Now, we don't want to use this portion because you can get it tied up.
Okay.
So we're just trying to wrap this nice and neatly. And you can
hold that out of
yeah,
the way.
this is always in the way. And you can do this in many different ways. You can wrap it to where there's a lot of string on there or very little. I kind of like the very little look. But
so anywhere you feel like there's a gap or a protrusion, that's just where you would maybe wrap over it.
I'm just trying to keep it together. Get all sides. Okay, does that look good enough for you?
Yeah, looks good.
Now, if you just tie it up here like this, it will fall over. So you need to kind of run it through one of the wrappings, like this.
Oh, okay.
And then tie it to whatever height that you would like. And there is a hanging Kokedama.
Beautiful. So you have another example here too of one that is in a container. And so this is actually a little more water efficient, I guess, or for those who might be a little more concerned with keeping that hydrated.
Water is very crucial part to keeping this alive. You need to water this probably every 4 or 5 days, and the best way to do it is actually soak it in a pot of water, a bowl of water, a water container. Let it sit there 4 or 5 minutes. Let the whole system, the whole container fill up with water. Once you've done that, you'll let it sit out like this and let it dry just for a few minutes, so that way it's not dripping on the floor or something, that your curtains or whatever you like to keep.
And you have some other different options down here. Can you tell us about these? Whether these work or not? So these are just grapevine wreaths or balls.
These are great balls. This one's about a 6-inch ball, and it's got wires that are in here to keep it together. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut the wire, and then we're going to do this again.
Okay.
This right here is our biggest opening place, which will make it much easier to put our plant in there. I'm going to find the wire that's right there. Now be careful, because that will, where that wire is cut, it will cut you.
Yeah. So you're just bending that back in there.
I'm just bending that back in there, and I'm going to open this to where we can easily put a plant in there. I'm going to line the container here with moss.
And moss is one of those things that it's really hard to hydrate, but once it's hydrated, it sort of holds that moisture for a period of time.
Yes. This is what it looks like now. It's about half full of the sheet moss. Now we're going to, since this is a bigger ball, we're going to use a bigger plant.
Okay.
We're going to have to put some potting soil in there. So would you mind getting me some, please?
There you go.
Thank you. Okay. So there again, our ball is wrapped, or is outlined with the sheet moss, and we put some potting soil in there.
And that sheet moss really just kind of helps hold that soil from getting through the cracks there.
Now we're going to take our plant, put it in the hole.
Do you put more soil
and
around
see about how, see how that's doing? It's about level with the ball. That's where we need to be. Now we're going to take some of the sheet moss And we're going to have to tear this and kind of stuff it in there.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll try this. This doesn't need to be real tight, but it needs to be snug.
Okay. I think it's good there. What do you think?
I think that's pretty sharp. There you go.
So that's a little, maybe easier than having to twist the twine around. It's kind of a pre-made container.
Yes.
All right. So again, you could probably attach something to hang that or to set it on the ground either way.
You can attach the strings just like we did here on each side, or 3 sides, and we can hang it.
Well, Chad, thank you so much for showing us this new way of gardening.
You're welcome. Thank you. Enjoyed it.
Today we are here at the Tulsa Garden Center at Woodward Park, and we are next to one of their lovely iris beds. Now you might be wondering why we're talking about irises in the fall, but joining me is Jim Palmer, who is with the Tulsa Area Iris Society. And Jim, why are we talking about irises in the fall?
Well, this is the perfect time to transplant your irises and divide your irises because they're just coming out of summer dormancy and getting ready to start a little bit of growth before the freezing cold weather. So this is the ideal time to transplant irises and divide them.
Okay, so I mean, we have your classic iris flags. If you haven't mowed them over, right? You still got your flags, you know where they are. So let's talk a little bit about that process of digging them and dividing them. What do we need to do?
Sure. Irises ideally need to be divided about every 3 to 5 years, so because if they get too clumped up, then they won't bloom well.
Okay.
And so once you dig them up and you divide them out, you want to plant them 2 to 3 in a clump, about 6 to 12 inches apart, depending on how often you want to redivide again. And you want to mound that dirt up, plant your rhizome, and leave the rhizome just a little bit exposed at the top so they can get some air circulation.
Okay, because they don't like to actually be buried, right? They will drown easily. So that mound helps with that.
Absolutely,
drainage?
that helps keeps them dry, and because once they get established, then they don't like a lot of water. They will rot if they get too much water.
Okay, all right. So this time of year, we talk about planting spring bulbs, but that's sort of what we're doing with these irises, right? Allowing them that time to root in?
Yes, they need to be in the ground at least a month before the first hard freeze to keep them from heaving out of the ground when it freezes.
Okay, okay. Now, I kind of made a joke a little bit about mowing off your irises. Go ahead and tell us, what's the proper protocol on maintaining our iris flags?
Well, you don't really recommend mowing them, and really you can just leave them, just clean out all the dead leaves, give them good air circulation, and that way the leaves can continue feeding the rhizome through the winter. If you want to trim them back a little bit just to make your garden a little more pleasing to look at, you can do that, trim off the dead edges from summer dormancy, but it's really not necessary.
Okay, all right. But they are photosynthesizing. They're green. They're trying to build those rhizomes even bigger throughout the season.
Right, and they will stay green throughout the entire winter.
Okay, all right. Well, thank you so much. Tell us a little bit, though. You've got, I mean, y'all are doing a little bit of dividing of your irises here. What's going on with your collection?
Sure, we're redoing our iris beds. We're going to group up some historical irises together so people can see how irises used to be versus the new current models of irises. But also we're grouping up Oklahoma hybridizer irises. So we really want to feature the Oklahoma hybridizers versus the irises that just come from all over the world.
Right. And you guys are, a lot of you are hobbyists, a lot of them are doing it professionally. Tell us a little bit about the Tulsa Area Iris Society and if somebody has this interest of hybridizing irises.
Yeah, they can come to the Tulsa Area Iris Society. You don't have to be a member, just come in, we'll give you tips on how to do things. And once you start hybridizing, it's kind of a bug, you want to keep going and see what comes out. Some things are special, some things aren't, but they get registered with the American Iris Society and then introduced into commerce if they're really special.
Well, Jim, thank you so much for sharing, and I look forward to seeing what this garden looks like next spring.
Well, thank you for coming out, Casey.
we planted a Scoville pepper garden. Now, a Scoville is the unit of measure to determine how hot a pepper or spicy a pepper actually is. So we've got a mild bed and we've got a hot bed, and it goes all the way from a no-heat jalapeno, which looks very similar to a regular jalapeno. In fact, I'll show you here what it looks like. Looks very similar to a regular jalapeno. We go all the way up through bell peppers to our traditional jalapeno. Then we also, on our hotbed over here, it starts around a 3,000 Scoville unit with a serrano pepper and quickly goes all the way up to ghost pepper, Trinidad scorpion, and then finally topping off at one of our hottest peppers that is known, and that's the Carolina Reaper, topping out around 2 million Scoville units. So you can see our 4-inch pots have really taken off and they've enjoyed this heat this summer. Now, what's the point of growing all these peppers if we're not going to try them? And in fact, I have a few willing participants to even try the Carolina Reaper. So let me introduce you to our willing participants. We're all willing, right? Okay, so we've got Jay Pirtle, who is one of our student gardeners who helped actually grow these peppers. Daniel Ferris, who is our videographer and editor, which he took this opportunity to join us on this side of the camera. And finally, Dr. Shelley Mitchell, who, let's face it, just has a spicy personality. So thank you all for trying this. Are you ready to do it? We've provided you all with a complimentary glass of cool, refreshing milk to enjoy throughout the process. And then we've also going from the no-heat jalapeno all the way up to this bad boy, the Carolina Reaper, that comes in at 2 million Scoville units. Okay, so here we go. I'm gonna go ahead and put that in there. All right, we're gonna start off going with mild first, and we're not doing all 18 or 16. We're just skipping around here a little bit. So got a no-heat jalapeno that is 0 Scoville units. So this shouldn't taste like anything other than the flavor of a jalapeno. Ready to try it?
Yep. Ready.
We now have the poblano pepper that is at the hotter end of the mild, and this is around 1,000 to 2,000 Scoville units.
Very good.
We're going to start out with a Tabasco pepper. This is at 30 to 50,000.
Yeah. Small but mighty. Okay, here we go. That's good.
So we're going from 50,000 up to 100,000 to 350,000.
Well, they say you go into a zen-like state. We'll see if I experience that.
That one has a lot more like flavor than spice. That one's really good.
That's good.
We're now jumping up to our third hottest one, which is the ghost pepper.
I must be in the zen stage.
She's just overreacting. This one, the hottest pepper, the Carolina Reaper, comes in anywhere from 1.4 million to 2 million Scoville units. It is said to have a sweetness, a fruity sweetness about it before it melts your face off. So, bon appetit. There are a lot of great horticulture activities this time of year. Be sure and consider some of these events in the weeks ahead.
squash, gourds, deer, and fairy gardens. Join us next week for another enchanting Oklahoma gardening.
I do feel it's kind of like in the cartoons where smoke's coming out your ears. My right ear, right side does, since I bit it on that side, does feel on fire.
But do you want to try it on the other side, just to even out your...
To find out more information about show topics as well as recipes, videos, articles, fact sheets, and other resources, including a directory of local extension offices, be sure to visit our website at oklahomagardening.okstate.edu. Join in on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You can find this entire show and other recent shows as well as individual segments on our Oklahoma Gardening YouTube channel. Tune in to our OK Gardening Classics YouTube channel to watch segments from previous hosts. Oklahoma Gardening is produced by the Oklahoma Cooperative Extension Service as part of the Division of Agricultural Sciences and Natural Resources at Oklahoma State University. The Botanic Garden at OSU is home to our studio gardens, and we encourage you to come visit this beautiful Stillwater gem. We would like to thank our generous underwriter, the Oklahoma Department of Agriculture, Food, and Forestry. Additional support is also provided by Pond Pro Shop, Greenleaf Nursery and the Garden Debut Plants, the Tulsa Garden Center at Woodward Park, the Oklahoma Horticultural Society, Smart Pot, and the Tulsa Garden Club.